Hi, good morning. Sorry for my accent, I'm French. Okay, so thanks a lot, UT Austin, for welcoming France today. It's our honor to be a part of this French Day. And we'll introduce the next panel, which will be on nuclear carols, the future of nuclear via the past, present perspectives of France, US, and Texas. So please welcome Sunil Felix from the French Atomic Commission at the US Embassy, Jimmy Glottelfeil, Commissioner for the Public Utility Commission of Texas, and Dale Klein, our moderator, who is a former Commissioner of Nuclear Regulatory Commission and teacher here at Professor at UT Austin. Thank you. The floor is yours.
So if you haven't seen on the back of your seats there, the QR code, if you just go to slido.com, joining as a participant, enter code 1801689, and then we'll gather up questions along the way.
Thanks, and welcome to this session this morning. I'm Dale Klein. Have the pleasure of introducing our speakers. And so the format that we will have is each speaker will have about 15 to 20 minutes, and then we hope to have about 20 minutes of Q&A. So if you don't get your questions in, you just have to sit here and stare at each other. So as the questions or as the program goes on, make sure you develop your questions. So this morning, we're really honored to have representation from France and from Texas. And so for those of you that know your geography, Texas and France are about the same size, but you will hear about their electricity choices and their energy choices are much different. And so you will pick that up this morning, even though they're the same size, a much different structure. So I will first introduce Dr. Felix, and then also Jimmy, and then Dr. Felix will make the presentation after I introduce Commissioner Glotfelty. So we're honored to have with us Dr. Sunil Felix. He's currently serving as the Nuclear Counsel at the French Embassy in DC. He took on that position in September of 2020. Prior to that time, he had worked for the CEA, which is equivalent to the Atomic Energy Commission in France. He received a PhD and postdoc in mathematics. His area of expertise is structural analysis. So in addition to being the nuclear counselor now at the French Embassy in the US, prior to that time, he was also the nuclear counsel for other countries. And so that included South Korea, India, and Japan. In 2015, he received the National Order of Merit from the French government. So please welcome Dr. Felix. Our next speaker, I'll go ahead and introduce Commissioner Glotfelty now, and then we'll just flow directly into that. So Commissioner Glotfelty was appointed to the Public Utility Commission in August of 2021 after Storm Uri. So he didn't cause it. He was appointed by Governor Abbott, and his term will go until September 1st of 2025. So prior to his service on the Public Utility Commission, Commissioner Glotfelty was the founder and executive vice president of Clean Line Energy. So both our speakers have had public and private experience. So on the public sector side, Commissioner Glotfelty was an policy advisor to Secretary of Energy Spence Abraham. He was a policy director for Governor Bush. He was the founder and first holder of the Office of Electricity at the Department of Energy. On the private side, he had worked for Calpine, ICF Consulting, and Quanta Services. His BS is from Texas Tech in political science and marketing.
Hold on. TCU.
Sorry, TCU.
Let's get that right.
Yeah, get that right. Yeah.
At least you didn't say SMU.
Yeah. So you could tell that his both political science and marketing has done well for him. Probably his most exciting assignment now is at the Governor Abbott asked Commissioner Glotfelty to head up the task force to look at nuclear role in Texas, including small modular reactors, and particularly how that might impact the supply chain and business opportunities. So later this year, there will come the Glotfelty report on his, the result of his task force. So please welcome Commissioner Glotfelty. So now we will hear from Dr. Felix. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much.
Right. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. So thank you very much, Dale, for these very kind words of introduction. I'm extremely pleased to be here, but first and foremost, I would like to thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to talk today during this Energy Week. I'm extremely honored and happy, of course, to be here in front of you to talk about the situation of nuclear energy in France and, more generally speaking, in Europe. I'm also very happy, I have to say, very frankly speaking, I'm also very happy that the organizers accepted to include a session on nuclear energy in this, in the program of this Energy Week, because I'm going to sound very politically incorrect, but please forgive me for that. A certain number of conferences on energy try to avoid nuclear because it's a bit of a taboo topic. So I'm extremely grateful to the organizers for having accepted to include this session on nuclear energy. The reason being that in today's context, which is, I would say, characterized by a certain number of considerations such as environmental considerations, energy security considerations in the backdrop of the geopolitical context, nuclear, I think, has got an extremely important role to play, and I'll try to explain why, and I'll also try to explain why France has so heavily embarked in the nuclear field. So, given this context, which I just reminded, that is a context which is characterized by a certain number of environmental considerations as well as energy security considerations, a certain number of developments, I would even say numerous developments, have taken place in France and in Europe in the nuclear field, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So, first of all, I'll first focus on the situation in France, nuclear energy in France, and then I'll move on to the situation of nuclear energy in Europe. So first of all, the French nuclear program. Again, I will first focus on the current status of nuclear energy in France, and then I'll move on to description of how France is gearing up to prepare its future nuclear energy program, because France is committed to using nuclear energy. So France, as you know, is one of the countries, if not more, the country with the highest share of nuclear power, given the fact that 75% of its electricity is generated through nuclear power. Why is that so? The reason is very, very simple. Unlike, for example, the US, which has so much of oil, coal, and gas, we in France have nothing at all. And therefore, we have nothing, but we have something else which allows us to develop our nuclear program. As many of you probably know, in the 1970s, the whole world had to face 2 oil shocks. And as a result of these oil shocks, the French authorities decided to stop, I should say, to try as much as possible to stop their energy imports, because most of their oil and gas would be coming from a certain number of countries which are kind of unstable. And so France decided to decrease its imports of energy resources in order to increase its independence, its energy independence level. And that's the reason why in the 70s, France decided to go full speed ahead in the nuclear field. And in a span of about 20 years, from the 70s to the 1990s, France built its entire nuclear fleet, made up of about 60 nuclear reactors, which means about 3 nuclear reactors per year, which is a huge achievement. And if I'm saying that, it's not to brag about my own country, it was a matter of survival. We had to ramp up our nuclear program in order to try to be as independent as possible with regards to energy resources imports. So that's how in the span of 20 years we built something like 60 nuclear reactors, large-sized reactors, and I'll talk about that in a few minutes. Now these 60 60 reactors. 4 have been shut down, but they're going to be replaced by a certain number of new ones, Gen 3 reactors. These 60 reactors now produce something like 75% of our electricity. And if you compare the 60 reactors, the number of 60 reactors to the population, we are about 64, 65 million. It means that we have about 1 reactor which feeds the needs of 1 million people, which is an astronomical figure, 1 reactor for 1 million people's needs. These 60 reactors in the 1970s were built according to one principle, one very simple principle, the standardization principle, which means that all the 60 reactors are of the same kinds, PWR, pressurized water reactors. The reason we did that is because, for safety reasons, in case one problem occurs on one reactor, we can immediately check if on the other 59 reactors we have the same problems, as compared to a fleet which is composed of several kinds of reactors. If one problem occurs on one reactor, you cannot be sure that other reactors will suffer or not this problem. So we based our entire construction program on this standardization principle. And you have, of course, on this map the location of the 19 locations of the different nuclear power plants, and you can see that all the power plants are spread all over the country, the entire country. What about the back end of the fuel cycle in France? We have adopted the closed fuel cycle policy based on the recycling and reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel. I will come back to this point in a few minutes. What are the reasons for France's strong commitment to the nuclear option? Or in other words, what are the advantages or the benefits which we draw from our nuclear program? The first benefit is the land use of energy sources, source per unit of electricity. The land required by nuclear to produce 1 unit of electricity is much smaller than the land required by other sources of energy to produce the same amount of electricity. In a country like France, which is such a tiny country as compared to your country, for example, land is very scarce, and therefore we have to make sure that we have as dense as possible a source of energy, and nuclear is perfect for that. Nuclear is also the cheapest, the cleanest, and the safest energy source, no matter what a certain number of people say. As you can see, the cleanest. France is among the countries in the whole of Europe with the lowest CO2 emission per capita, as compared to Germany, for example, which has decided, as you know, to phase out nuclear energy. The safest. This graph shows you on the right, on the right-hand side, the upper figure, that if you compare an accident, if you compare the death toll in accidents coming from different power plants, the death toll from a nuclear accident is much lower than for any other power plants. As for the economics, which is a very, very important factor, because I don't think the French would accept, as it is, we protest quite a bit, but we would protest even more if our electricity were very expensive. France's electricity, thanks to nuclear, is about 20% cheaper than the average European Union electricity price. Plus, France also exports. France is the largest exporter of electricity in the whole of Europe. What about the spent fuel now? How do we manage the spent fuel, which is a big issue, not only technically, but also vis-à-vis the public opinion? In France, I would say that one of the main features which makes France's nuclear program extremely unique is its back-end policy. That is a closed fuel cycle based on the recycling and reprocessing of spent nuclear fuel. In France, unlike in many other countries, we do not consider spent nuclear fuel as a waste, not at all. On the contrary, for us, spent nuclear fuel is a recyclable matter. And the reason why we consider that spent nuclear fuel is a recyclable matter is because if you take spent nuclear fuel, that is a fuel which has come out from the reactor after having been irradiated, it still contains something like 97% of the energy potential which the fresh fuel contained before being fed into the reactor, 97%. And that's why we consider that spent nuclear fuel is not a waste, on the contrary, it's a recyclable matter. I always say that it would be a waste to consider spent nuclear fuel a waste, if you see what I mean. So what we do is, we take our spent nuclear fuel and we recycle it and we reprocess it. We transform the spent nuclear fuel into fresh fuel, which is called MOX, which contains plutonium, which was generated during the irradiation of fresh fuel. And that's how we manage to close the fuel cycle. That is, fresh fuel is put in a reactor, irradiated. The spent nuclear fuel is recycled into into fresh fuel, MOX fuel, and we re-inject it in the reactor. But this is done once. That's what we call mono-recycling, and I will talk about that as opposed to multi-recycling in a few seconds. I said just now that MOX fuel contains, among other elements, plutonium, which is generated during the irradiation of fresh fuel. You see on the yellow picture that 1 gram of plutonium is equivalent in terms of energy contents to 100 grams of uranium, 1 ton of oil, 2.5 tons of coal, 1.5 ton of coal, and it generates 11 megawatt hour of electricity, which are figures which show you how huge the energy potential is of plutonium. In France, we have a lot of spent fuel because we've been running our nuclear program for the past 50, 60 years. We do not reprocess the entire spent fuel we have. Only 10% to date of the electricity produced in France is produced from MOX fuel, for reasons which I will explain later. Nevertheless, if we were to reprocess the entire amount of spent fuel which we have today, we would have enough sources to feed the needs of France for 2,000 years. That's why I said just now it would be a waste to consider spent fuel as a waste. Now, what about the other big issue? When I say big issue, is vis-a-vis the public opinion of waste management, radioactive waste management. Before I talk about how we dispose of our waste in France, where does this waste come from? It comes, of course, from the nuclear industry, it comes from the food industry, it comes from the medical industry, and some other minor industries. But these are the main categories, these are the main industrial sectors which actually produce waste. So in order to dispose of our waste in France, waste which excludes spent nuclear fuel, as I stated just now, in order to dispose of our waste, we first have to characterize the waste. I'm going to, just for the sake of clarification, I'm going to simplify things very much. We have 2 categories of waste in France based on 2 criteria. The first criteria is the radioactivity level. The second criteria is the lifetime. So we have 2 main criteria. The first group, or the first category, is low and intermediate radioactivity, short-lived waste. That's group 1. And the second group is high radioactivity, long-lived waste, group 2. So how do we manage these different categories of waste? First of all, before I tell you how we manage it, I have to say one thing which is extremely important, especially in the eyes of the public opinion. The group 1 waste, that is low and intermediate radioactivity level, short-lived waste, makes up 90% of the entire waste, radioactive waste, which is produced from these 3 industries which I quoted just now, 90%. And the 10% remaining waste are made up of high radioactivity, long-lived waste. For the 90%, for the group 1, for the 90% waste which I just talked about, the group 1, we already have a solution which is industrialized, which is operational, and which is economically viable. It is surface or subsurface waste disposal, which means that we bury this waste almost at the surface of the ground, or in a disposal facility which is very shallow and not deep at all. We have 3 such sites in France, given on the map of France in blue up there, which are already fully operational. Which means what? Which means that for 90%, for 90% of the waste, we already have a solution which is fully operational and which is being currently implemented to dispose of this waste. Now, for the 10% remaining waste, that is the group 2, highly radioactive, long-lived waste, we are currently working on a solution which is deep geological repository, which is a project called the CGEO project, which is currently located in the eastern part of Paris. It's a repository which is 500 meters deep, which will receive all the packages containing high-level waste. And the first packages are supposed to be placed in this deep geological repository site in the between 2035 and 2040. So once this deep geological repository site is fully operational, we would have solved the waste issue in France. So I have spoken about the current status of our nuclear energy program. Given the international context and given the environmental context, France very recently confirmed its full commitment to its nuclear program and is gearing up now to improve even more its nuclear industry. So a certain number of measures are being currently taken to prepare for France's future nuclear program. First measure, I've given here the main ones. The first measure is the extension of the lifetime of the current fleet. Our fleet currently is designed to work for about 40 years, and we are going to move it to 50 years and eventually 60 years, like what you have already started doing in the US. Second measure which was taken to confirm, well, I should say to extend even more our nuclear program, we have a government program called France Relance, which is a program funded by the French authorities to develop small modular reactors. All the reactors which are currently operating are large-sized reactors, the smallest one being 900 megawatt electric, the biggest one being 1650 megawatt, the EPR reactor, which you probably must have heard of. But in order to have the whole spectrum of capacities, we are now currently working on the SMR concept. You will ask me, but why didn't you do that earlier? The reason being that, like I said just now, our country is very small as compared to yours, for example, and therefore land is scarce, and that's the reason why we had to develop large-sized reactors. Because if you have one small, if you want to have the same number, the same amount of electricity produced by the current fleet, you'll have to have many SMRs, and public acceptance is a problem given the fact that France is a democracy, and therefore we cannot do anything without the consent of the local population. Another very important measure which is taken to commit even more to nuclear energy, our President Macron, launched in 2022 the construction of 6 new EPR reactors, 6 times 1650 megawatt electric. 1650 is the largest size existing today in the whole world, and 6 of these reactors are going to be built starting from next year, followed by another 8 ones, which is something unheard of because the last reactor to be built was something 25 years back. So all of a sudden, we've decided to ramp up our program even more by building 6 plus 8, it's 14 reactors, the largest reactors existing in the whole world. That was on the reactor side. We're also ramping up our industry on the fuel cycle side by extending our GB2. GB2 is Georges Best 2, the enrichment facilities, industrial facilities located somewhere in the center of France. We have, you probably must have heard of Orano, which is the French company which is in charge of the fuel cycle, which enriches the uranium to produce fuel, nuclear fuel. GB2 is going to extend its enrichment capacity by 30% for many reasons. First of all, because, like I said, we're going to build 6 plus 8 EPR reactors, which will consume more enriched uranium, and therefore we need to extend our enrichment facilities. But also because the demand at an international level is growing higher and higher. You all must have heard, unfortunately, of the Ukraine crisis, and Russia being one of the main exporters of uranium, and given the fact that a certain number of countries want to sort of distance themselves from Russia, we have to compensate by having our own. When I say we, I mean, of course, like-minded countries, having our own enrichment facilities, and that's why we've decided to ramp up the production capacities of the GB2 plant. Last but not least, multi-recycling. When I talk to you about the closed fuel cycle, I use the word mono-recycling. Why? Because what we do is we take our spent fuel, we recycle it, we reprocess it, and we transform it into new fuel. We only do it once. Sorry. But the spent fuel coming from the MOX fuel, which has been irradiated, still contains a huge amount of energy, which we do not want to waste, which means that we are now targeting another objective, that is recycling the spent MOX fuel, which means that we're going to multi-recycle our spent nuclear fuel. And we're going to do that as often as possible, as much as possible, in order for the ultimate spent nuclear fuel to be reduced to what we call ultimate waste, that is waste which we can no longer reprocess. So the advantage of this is that we would have extracted all the energy contained in spent fuel, and the only thing which will be left will be ultimate waste which we can no longer use. And secondly, the ultimate waste, in terms of radiotoxicity, in terms of volume, will be much smaller than if you were to just dump your spent nuclear fuel in a repository under the pretext that it's a waste. So from all accounts we win, A, because we extract all the possible energy we can from spent nuclear fuel, B, because we reduce the radiotoxicity of the waste, and C, because we reduce its volume. And in a country, if it's much easier to sell to the public opinion the fact that you're going to have to eventually store a very small volume of waste rather than telling the population we're going to have to store a huge amount of waste. So that's why we are now targeting multi-recycling. That's our target. We have not mastered the technology for multi-recycling. We are currently working on it, but that's eventually the goal which we want to reach. In the last paragraph, I've given you some of the benefits of the multi-recycling policy. Saving uranium resources, because the more you recycle, the less you have to import uranium, because all our uranium is imported. We don't have any uranium on our soil. Making the most of nuclear energy, that's what I said just now. Spent nuclear fuel contains 97% of the energy potential of fresh fuel. Energy autonomy and security, that is easy to understand. And reduction, that's very important, by a factor 10 of the radiotoxicity of high-level waste. It means you decrease the radiotoxicity by a factor 10, which is enormous, by a factor 5 of the waste volume and the waste footprint, and by a factor 20 of the repository footprint. That's why we say that the closed fuel cycle is extremely important to ensure sustainability of nuclear energy, because you see the number of countries now who want to adopt a nuclear program. We won't have enough uranium going to feed the needs of the entire planet, and therefore we should not waste spent nuclear fuel, given the fact that it still contains a lot of energy. So this is, in a nutshell, what I wanted to say about the French program. Now allow me to move on to the European scene. Like I said, like as it's written here in the slide, environmental considerations plus the geopolitical context, the war in Ukraine, for example, have increased a certain number of countries' awareness on the benefits they can draw from nuclear energy, and that's why a certain number of European countries have decided either to ramp up even more their nuclear program, or to put an end to the moratorium they had adopted a few years back on nuclear energy. Italy is one of these prime examples. Italy had adopted a moratorium on nuclear energy. I don't know if there are any Italian people here in the group, in the audience, but I can see some people smiling. Italy had decided to phase out nuclear energy a few years back. Now Italy is reopening the debate to remove the moratorium on new builds. The UK has decided to increase its nuclear capacity from 5.9 gigawatt today to 24 gigawatt electric, and you know that France is building 2 EPR reactors in Hinkley Point in the UK. France is going to build 6 plus 8 EPR reactors. I mentioned it just now. Poland is planning to build 6 to 9 gigawatt electricity nuclear capacity in the next few years. And that's at the level of a country. But France has decided also, given the fact that we have, unfortunately, a certain number of countries which are still opposed to nuclear energy, France has decided to try to gather a certain number of pro-nuclear countries within what we call the Alliance for Nuclear Energy, which is an initiative launched by our former energy minister. And this alliance is aimed at getting a certain number of pro-nuclear countries to pool in a certain number of their means, because in order to build nuclear reactors on such a large scale, we need manpower, we need a supply chain, which is unfortunately something which we lack. So through this Alliance for Nuclear Energy, we are going to pool in a certain number of efforts in order to be able to reach the goal which I just quoted just now, that is 35 to 40 new nuclear power plants in Europe by year 2050. So this Alliance for Nuclear Energy is an alliance which was launched by France, and now it has got about 16 member countries. And another such similar initiative was launched very recently by the European Commission at the European level. It's the European Alliance on Small Modular Reactors, because the Alliance for Nuclear Energy, which was launched by France, is technology neutral. That is, it covers large-sized reactors as well as small-sized reactors. But to focus more on small-sized reactors, the European Commission has decided to launch this initiative called the European Industrial Alliance on Small Modular Reactors. The concept is very similar. That is, we pull in all our efforts to be able to promote SMRs, because there are a certain number of countries which either don't have the financial means for large-sized reactors, or because they don't need large-sized reactors, they need small-sized reactors. So that's the aim of this European Commission initiative. At a political level, I'd like to remind the initiative launched by 5 like-minded countries: the US, France, Canada, Japan, and the UK. last April 2023, there was the G7 meeting, at the end of which these 5 like-minded countries decided to gather to secure supply of fuel in the current geopolitical context, because we do no longer want to depend on Russian fuel. And finally, at a world level, the COP28, you probably must have read the conclusions of the COP28, the aim, which is fixed now by a certain number of countries, like-minded countries, is to triple the world nuclear capacity by 2050. So that's in a nutshell the situation of nuclear energy in France and in Europe. That concludes my talk, but before I conclude my talk, I should say, I would like to conclude my talk with one very simple and clear comment. You probably must have guessed that I'm very pro-nuclear. The reason I'm pro-nuclear is not because it's not out of dogma, not at all, not at all. If I'm married to nuclear, I would say it's a marriage. How do you say that in English? Of convenience, not a marriage of love. And I'm saying that very seriously. If tomorrow somebody finds a technology which has got the benefits which I just quoted of nuclear energy without the dangerous aspects, I'll be the first one to resign. Unfortunately, you cannot do that today because we do not have mastered the art of, the technology for storing huge amount of electricity produced, for example, from renewables. So until that day, I think we cannot do without nuclear. Thank you very much.